Good morning. Autumn has arrived, and that brings with it, in terms of maintenance of my driveway, a series of issues. The leaves, to be precise. And this pile is still there. It shouldn't be, but it's smaller than it was because the bin is now full up with leaves. Now I can't take credit for that, and my wife was involved in that job, which was very good of her. She will be upset if I don't give her that credit. Now these are last year's leaves, many of them in this bag here, which the idea being they break down and produce leaf mould, which I can use on vegetables. But the problem is they haven't broken down as much as they possibly should have done. And I'll just break into the bag slightly there. You see, they're still pretty leaf-like. I would have hoped by this point they'd have been a little bit more kind of a black crumbly material, which can then be used for seedlings next spring. But we'll see what we'll get to next spring. I think perhaps I haven't given them enough air. These are the new ones, which over the course of the coming months will start to break down, hopefully as well. Now, I do want to focus slightly more heavily on another issue that comes up with driveway problems. And this area, as you can see, has got some other issues. Not just leaves, but there's also loads of weeds. And the weeds are a huge concern to me. Now, these weeds are of course a symptom of Earth's systems kicking in, and of nature trying to reclaim my driveway. We only need to think of civilization-ending dystopian films or photos of abandoned towns to know what my driveway will eventually look like if I leave nature to do its thing. Pripyat, the exclusion zone in Ukraine after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, would be a good thing to Google to be able to see what perhaps my driveway might in the future look like if I don't do anything. So this is what we would call a vegetation succession, and it mimics a lithocere, a vegetation succession found in nature on bare rock. Plants start to grow, and it will happen in places like lava flows after a volcanic eruption. So what is happening here? Well, we've got pioneer species that move in first, and that's going to be like here, the mosses, and possibly things like lichens as well, in between those cracks that are there. And the lichens in particularly, well, they're going to go through their life cycle. They're going to release organic matter into those cracks in the ground and create simple soils. But the lichens are going to release acid, which aids in the weathering of the bricks in this case. The weathered rock and organic material starts to create a soil, meaning conditions in this otherwise barren wasteland become less harsh, meaning a wider range of species can then start to prevail. Dandelions followed, with nettles close behind, and brambles, each adding soil layers and continuing to soften the conditions. Eventually a temperate deciduous forest might end up being here, with a mighty oak standing in this location if I don't do anything about it. But of course the question is, can I prevent this? Hopefully I can. So as a rule, allowing nature to do its thing is good in a number of ways, not least because the plant growth and the soil creation locks away atmospheric carbon. As we know, there is too much carbon in the air, and it's probably causing and will continue to cause major problems. Pre-industrial levels of carbon dioxide were 280 parts per million. As of about 2013, we have caused the figure to exceed 400 parts per million. This is the first time this has happened in the last 3 million years, and we have caused it in a couple of hundred years of burning fossil fuels. So back to my big issue, this issue here, which the best solution of course is what I'm doing there, pulling all of these weeds out. How do I remove them? I could go to the garden centre and buy weed killer, but that would decimate the local ecosystem, killing the insects, and I would therefore be contributing to the destruction of the earth. Also, this is in the close proximity to my greenhouse. In there, just behind this fence. And if I start putting chemicals this side of the fence, then they might leak through, and obviously the food that grows in the greenhouse i.e. to my family eats, so I don't really want that to happen. A middle ground, apart from harsh chemicals, might be using a weed torch to burn the weeds. It's quite a fun activity. Not as effective as you might imagine. They don't kind of vaporize like I kind of have hoped they would. I've never found them to be that effective. I could chuck boiling water on them, which does do the job. But again, does harm the community of other insects and things that are around. And it's also quite labour intensive going backwards and forwards from the kettle. So the answer, with a huge regret, is that I've got a kitchen knife that I use for this actually, one that's specially assigned for the job. Come through, pull out all these weeds from the cracks, and hopefully manage to improve the look of this driveway. These ones, the dandelions, are difficult because you pull them out like that and the root stays in. Big deep tap root that goes right down there, and that will then be back in 2 weeks, which is very frustrating. Just for entertainment value, I'll do one more. There we go. Look at that. Those weeds, those roots are much easier to pull out, so that one won't be back. There we go. Bye.